In June 1994, Los Angeles was rocked by a brutal double homicide. Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ronald Goldman were found murdered outside Nicole's Brentwood condominium. The prime suspect was Nicole's ex-husband, NFL legend turned actor, Orenthal James O.J. Simpson. From the moment the bodies were discovered, the case captured global attention. The trial that followed would not only scrutinize O.J. Simpson, but also put forensic science and law enforcement practices under a microscope. The discovery. On the morning of June 13, 1994, a neighbor was led by Nicole's dog to a grisly scene. Nicole and Ron had both been stabbed repeatedly. Blood trails, a glove, a cap, and shoe prints indicated a violent struggle. Detectives believed the killer was wounded, bleeding from the left hand as he fled. Homicide detective Tom Lang arrived on the scene before dawn. The evidence suggested a rage killing, likely personal. A single set of size, 12 shoe prints led away from the scene. Also found was a leather glove, later matched to another glove found at Simpson's Rockingham estate. The investigation. Detectives went to notify Simpson, finding his home empty. A white Ford Bronco parked outside caught their attention, with what appeared to be blood on the driver's side door. Suspecting foul play, detectives entered without a warrant. Inside the estate, house guest Cato Kellen reported hearing thumps behind his room the night before. Detective Mark Foreman, investigating the sound, discovered a second bloodied glove. Simpson had already flown to Chicago that night, but upon returning and speaking with police, inconsistencies in his story and a fresh cut on his left hand raised alarms. The Bronco also contained traces of blood, both on its exterior and interior. Drops led from the vehicle into Simpson's home. Police began collecting evidence and obtained a warrant to search the property more thoroughly. Building the case. Simpson's alibi fell apart under scrutiny. His limousine driver testified that Simpson was not visible at home around 10:30 p.m., the likely time of the murders, and later saw a man fitting Simpson's description hurrying into the house. Friends and family described Simpson as controlling and abusive. Nicole had called 911 on him before and feared he had taken a key to her condo. With circumstantial and physical evidence mounting, the LAPD charged Simpson with 2 counts of murder. But Simpson didn't turn himself in. Instead, on June 17, he fled in a white Bronco, leading police on a now infamous low-speed chase broadcast live to millions. That night, he surrendered. The trial begins. Dubbed the trial of the century, O.J. Simpson's case began in January 1995. Millions watched daily broadcasts. Prosecutors felt they had an airtight case, Simpson's blood at the scene, the victim's blood in his car and home, and both victims' DNA on the glove. Reconstruction expert Rod Englert concluded that the murders were swift, about 30 seconds. He suggested Simpson struck Nicole first, then struggled with Goldman before slitting both victims' throats. The blood trail, glove, and other evidence supported this sequence. DNA evidence seemed overwhelming. Blood drops at the scene matched Simpson's. The odds of the blood coming from anyone else were astronomical, 1 in 170 million. Blood found on the Bronco's console and dashboard also matched Simpson. One glove had the DNA of both victims and Simpson. The prosecution believed Simpson cut his hand during the attack, explaining the blood trail. But the defense wasn't backing down. Challenging the evidence, Simpson's dream team of defense attorneys, including Barry Scheck, turned their focus toward the credibility of forensic evidence. They claimed the crime scene was compromised, evidence mishandled, and procedures botched. Footage showed criminalists failing to change gloves or properly package evidence. Chief criminalist Dennis Fung admitted to leaving blood samples in a hot van for hours, risking DNA degradation. Defense experts suggested blood had been commingled and improperly collected, possibly contaminating the evidence. The defense raised an even darker claim that some evidence had been planted. Blood on Nicole's back gate wasn't collected until 3 weeks after the murder, raising questions. Simpson's blood was also found on socks in his home, yet defense experts claimed the pattern looked like it had been applied, not spattered. Additionally, traces of EDTA, a chemical used in blood preservation, were found in blood samples on the gate and the socks. The defense argued this suggested the blood may have come from test tubes, not natural wounds. The gloves don't fit. Perhaps the most dramatic moment of the trial came when the prosecution asked Simpson to try on the infamous gloves. The gloves appeared not to fit. Simpson struggled to get them over his hands, giving birth to the defense's iconic line, "If it doesn't fit, you must acquit." The prosecution claimed the gloves had shrunk from being soaked in blood and dried, but experiments suggested the shrinkage was minimal. This moment significantly undermined the prosecution's case. The defense then attacked Detective Mark Foreman. Foreman, who discovered the second glove, had a history of making racist remarks. The defense used his past to suggest he had motivation to frame Simpson. Foreman denied using racial slurs on the stand, but tapes later proved otherwise, damaging the prosecution's credibility further. The verdict: after 10 months of testimony and just 4 hours of deliberation, the jury reached its verdict. On October 3, 1995, Orenthal James Simpson was found not guilty of the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman. Prosecutors were stunned. Detective Tom Lang believed the jury ignored overwhelming evidence. Barry Scheck argued that the case was a lesson in the dangers of bad forensic practices. The aftermath: though acquitted in criminal court, Simpson was later found liable in a civil trial. The families of the victims were awarded $33.5 million. Unlike the criminal trial, this civil case allowed more evidence, including Simpson's ownership of rare Bruno Magli shoes, matching the prints found at the scene. The Simpson trial became a turning point in the history of forensic science. It exposed how even the most advanced techniques are vulnerable if proper procedures aren't followed. The trial was less about what happened and more about how well it could be proven in court. In the end, the Simpson case taught the world that evidence must not only be powerful, it must be handled with care.